everybody. Thanks for hopping on the podcast. But before we get going, want to remind everybody about the Friends of Steve McQueen Car and Motorcycle Show benefiting the Boys Republic in Chino Hills, California. That will be this June the 5th. Again, mark it on your calendar, June the 5th at the Boys Republic in Chino Hills, California. This year's theme is On Any Sunday, which was one of Steve McQueen's very popular movies. So if you want to have your car or motorcycle enrolled or exhibited at the show, visit www.stevemcqueencarshow.com to find out more details, and we will see you at the car show. Thanks and enjoy the podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Ed's Auto Garage. Again, this is Ed Arango coming to you live from within my four walls of my garage here in Huntington Beach, California. And it's a beautiful sunny day here in April, and just got off of the Long Beach Grand Prix this last weekend. Great event. Weather was phenomenal, except for Friday. Friday was boiling hot, but by Sunday, when the Indy cars were going, it was great. If you haven't checked it out, look it up on your local YouTube or anywhere on your TV. You should be able to find some snippets of the Long Beach Grand Prix, which was great. And again, I want to always remind everybody of June the 5th. June the 5th is going to be the Friends of Steve McQueen car show coming up in Chino, California at the Boys Republic. And the Boys Republic is a school that Steve McQueen actually attended as a youth, kind of a school for the troubled kids or little knucklehead kids, and Steve McQueen ended up being a student there. When he grew up and looked back, he saw that the school was so influential in his upraising. So he, throughout his life, he always contributed and kept the school very dear and near to his heart. Therefore, the school has in return has kind of created, probably for the last 15, 16 years, they have done a Friends of Steve McQueen car show, again, June the 5th. And it's basically it's an all-day event, all things kind of Steve McQueen. Yes, you're going to see Porsches. Yes, you're going to see Mustangs, but it's open to all cars and everyone's welcome. So please check it out if you get a chance. Again, it is the Friends of Steve McQueen, and you can visit their website at www.stevemcqueencarshow.com. Again, stevemcqueencarshow.com. And then also just want to let everybody know about the Piston Foundation. The Piston Foundation is a organization, a nonprofit that raises money to keep the nostalgic and the education of craftsmen and mechanics on how to work on some of these older vehicles like this that is kind of going away. And I think you guys have all heard my stories, of taking an older car for something simple like I don't know, adjusting the timing. And I ran into Pep Boys, and they looked at my old car and they just didn't know where to plug things into it because that's just not what they do any longer. So anyway, pistonfoundation.org, please check it out. And if you can donate, it'd be fantastic. Today's show is great. I have a guest that I am ecstatic to speak with. He is a plethora of knowledge, and he publishes a magazine. I think I got one of the older ones, but he publishes the Sports Car Market. My guest today is Keith Martin. Keith, thank you so much for being on with me today.
And it's great to be here, and it's even better to see that nice classic Alfa Romeo you have in the background there.
Yeah, it's kind of neat, isn't it? I mean, I've had a couple of classics, and I know you're an alpha guy, and you've had a number of different alphas. Why don't we start a little bit talking about that? What has endeared you to the alpha over the years? What kind of brought you to that car?
My very first car was a Bug-Eye Sprite. I at 9 a.m. on my 16th birthday, I was first in line at the DMV, passed my test, and then went, and a friend had a Bug-Eye Sprite for sale for $30. And I bought it, and I started the tradition of overpaying for crappy cars. But I liked the Alpha, and I had an MGA, and then a friend of mine had an Alfa Romeo. And I'll never forget, he came up to me and he said, "When are you going to get a real sports car?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Look under the hood of my car." And he said, "It's got double overhead camshafts. It's got aluminum block. It's got huge brakes." And then he said, "Now let's go look at your little tractor motor here." So he kind of shamed me into buying my first Alpha when I was 17 years old. And I've had one ever since. I just think they have such a, they're the affordable Italian exotic that starts the rung of Alfa, Maserati, Ferrari.
It does. And, it's kind of funny. I've had a number of spiders, and over the years, people have poo-pooed me about spiders and what have you. And, I'll always get that, oh yeah, I had a spider. I traded a guy for a moped once for a spider,
Right.
To
Right.
get, and so you always hear those stories, and it's kind of sad that there was a period of time, I would probably say maybe 10, 15 years ago, where you saw more spiders in such crappy shape,
Right.
and they were just crappy everywhere. But I think now they're starting to kind of come into their own a little bit. You're the expert here. What's your take on that?
Well, all cars go through a value cycle where they're new, they depreciate, they become used pieces of crap. And then if there's an underlying value to the car that's special, people will start putting money back into them, and they will start increasing in value. But Alphas for a long time were $800 to $1,200 to $1,500 cars, but those were completely worn out cars that had been run to the end of their life. And the problem with a car that's in that condition, totally crapped out, is that you can't do a quick tune-up and get it back on the road. It needs a motor overhaul, it needs gearbox, it needs suspension. I mean, it needs everything. So people are starting to put that money into those cars, and consequently, they're starting to go up in value because you can find nice ones. They're not cheap anymore, but they're really nice cars.
Yeah. Keith, why don't you bring us a little bit up to speed and kind of let us know a little bit about how you got yourself started in the car business, in the car world? Maybe was it something that was turned on to you by family, or how did you get all in? How did you become a car guy?
Well, that's a good question. My grandparents raised me, and they had a little farm in the country in Novato, outside of San Francisco. And my grandfather had a Ford N9 or 9N tractor, had a throttle lever on it instead of a gas pedal. But at the age of 8, he taught me how to drive that, start the tractor, use the throttle, and had me doing chores around the farm on this tractor. I'll never forget being 8 years old and climbing up on this tractor and just thinking how cool it was that I would punch the start button and it would fire up, and I could snick it into low gear and I could drive. It was imprinted on me from that point on. My life as a gearhead was determined.
At the age of 8.
8,
Wow. So then here comes your teenage years, and you started with you said the Bug-Eyed Sprite, and then you kind of moved into the Alphas. And then how did you kind of, I'm assuming that through after school and things, you kind of migrated into this into the car industry business. How did you get to this point of the magazine? What happened during that time?
Well, we started the magazine 35 years ago in my basement with a mimeograph machine. And there was a Maserati market letter and a Ferrari market letter and a Pantera market letter. This was in the mid 80s, but there was no Alfa market letter. And I thought, well, I'll just start one. So I put an ad in Hemmings magazine that said, subscribe today to the Alfa Romeo market letter, hundreds of Alfas for sale. And we would call up people in cities around the US and pay them to cut the Alfa ads for sale out of their newspapers and mail them to us. And we would put those ads in the Alfa market letter, and we put the ad in Hemmings, and we got about 100 people who decided to sign up. And I thought, holy crap, now I actually have to do this thing. And it just started small. We followed the role model of Gerald Rausch in the Ferrari market letter because I liked the way he did his magazine. And it just kind of became a hobby that I'd always liked to write. And I liked going to car auctions because to me they were theatrical events. You're sitting there, you're watching live theater on stage, and when you're watching people bid, they can't just stop and call their advisors and check around with their friends. They say, sir, it's 10-5 to you. Do you want the car or not? And you've got to make a decision right there on the spot. I really liked that aspect of it, and I liked writing about it.
Hey everyone, Ed Arango here from Ed's Auto Garage, wanting to give a shout out to our show sponsor, Arango Insurance Services. Arango Insurance Services is a full service insurance agency. We do home, auto, commercial, and any specialty. We specialize in the automotive space. So if you are a restoration shop, an OEM shop, a componentry manufacturer, we're able to insure you. It's a great time right now to have your policy reviewed, see if we can save you money, make sure you are properly insured, and at least evaluate your policy. See if you're in the right spot. So give us a shout out at Arango Insurance Services. You can reach us at our website, www.arangoins.com, or give us a call at 949-887-1274. Enjoy the podcast. We'll talk to you later.
That aspect of it, and I liked writing about it.
Yeah, and you had a show for a while where you reviewed a car, test drove the car, kind of gave it your idea of what the price might be and what it would cross at the block. Well, the name of that show.
What's my car worth?
What's my car worth? Right, exactly. And that really kind of, I guess, to the public, myself, that kind of showed us all like, wow, the amount of knowledge and how well tuned you were to what the market was for cars. And I'm assuming that a lot of that had to do with what was being published in these magazines.
Yeah, because basically, my life is all around cars and values and sales. And when it gets pretty easy to spot an outlier when it comes along, and most cars, it's a pretty predictable value range that they'll come into. So like say it's a 67 Alfa. 20 years ago, that would have been a $15,000 to $18,000 car. So what we enjoyed with that show was we did all the evaluations and then made a price prediction and then watched the filming of the actual selling of the car on stage to see how close or far we were.
Right.
But because the show aired months after the auction, it didn't really matter to the seller if we pointed out imperfections or flaws or things like that, because the car was long sold before anybody would see the show.
Got it. Wow. Did you at any time did you ever get into the car selling world yourself?
Well, I was the general manager of Ron Tonkin Ferrari in Portland, Oregon. And
Oh,
the cars we carried were Ferrari, Maserati, Lotus, and Alfa Romeo.
and this was before the magazine then.
Right. The magazine kind of came out of that because that's where I first saw the Ferrari market letter. There was another magazine for a while called the Tower Report. But I got interested in seeing what cars were selling for all over the world. So then I started going to auctions all over the world because it just intrigued the heck out of me to, you walk into a showroom in Geneva or something, and it's still a car, right? I mean, because we all speak car. And so the shut lines are shut lines, interior is interior. And I mean, it's just, so you just go look at all these cars and get a chance to evaluate them. That when a car becomes a used car, like it's 20 or 30 years old, it has a story to tell. Yeah. You can look at it and you can see, you can really see how it's been taken care of. Is the dash cracked and warped from being in the sun? Has it been repainted? Do the door shut lines fit properly? It's like being a forensic detective.
Yeah.
And I really liked it. I mean, I still enjoy it. What I love about going to car shows or Cars and Coffee is just walking around and, in a sense, letting the car talk to me and telling me what kind of life it's lived and what kind of owners it's had.
How do you, what's your take currently on what's happening with the market? I think just on regular, dealership cars. I mean, I know that the people that I've spoken to, family members, friends, a lot of us are kind of like, we don't even want to go to a dealership. We're going to wait for this to all relax because it just seems that everything is so out of control. What's your take in general on what's happening in the marketplace?
Well, you've got two things going on. You've got the modern car market and the classic car market.
Yeah.
The modern car market, and I bought a 2021 Hyundai Elantra, and I could trade it back in now for $5,000 or $6,000 more than I paid for it.
Yeah, is that crazy?
But then I'd have to pay $5,000 or $6,000 more than sticker to replace it. But right. It's just odd. The new car market, because of the chip shortages and things like that, it's just something I've never seen before. With all these, people charging above MSRP, people offering to buy your car back for more than you paid for it. I'm like you. I'm just going to sit out. Yeah, because it'll all level out over the next year. So the modern car market will return to normal. The classic car market has been in a bubble the past couple of years. There are a lot of theories. One is pent up demand because of COVID. People were inside and they couldn't go spend their money. Another one, I think, is the availability of cars, like on Bring a Trailer and Cars and Bids and P-Car Market. It's easier now to become aware of a car than it ever has been. If you go to these various sites and you tag them to email me when an MGB Roadster comes up, well, pretty soon your inbox, starts getting pinged a couple times a week, where in the past, like for instance, I have a 2006 Lotus Elise, and to find that car for about 6 months, I used these pirate Craigslists, search engines, Search Tempest, whatever, looking all over the country to find an 06 Lotus Elise. I finally found one in the Midwest somewhere. I looked up in my subscriber database. I had a subscriber who lived not far. I paid him to go look at the car. I paid him to hold the car while I wired him the money. Now, if I just click on the box that says, send me a notice when the Lotus Elise comes up, Bing, it's going to come to me. But it's not work to find a car like it used to be.
Yeah, no. Yeah, and you're so right. And it seems like even like I get pinged from Bring a Trailer, whenever like Alpha Spiders pop up, just out of curiosity, just to see what's going on. And you're right. I mean, I do, like, a couple times a week I get, here's an Alpha, here's a 69, here's a 71, here's a 78, whatever. I'll get pinged with those every so often. What's your opinion on sites like those, like Bring a Trailer? Do you think they're controlling, or they're really influential in what the prices of these vehicles are, these classics are?
I think they play a great deal in price setting because they're so transparent. In other words, you can really see what's going on, and they print their little charts and their weekly summations and things like that. I think that they have led to some increases in prices because the what we call the trolls, these auction sites have people that can comment on the cars, and the commenting on the cars is no different, Ed, than if you or I were at an auction and we're walking around an Alfa and we're talking to each other about, well, God, look, the seat doesn't look so good on that, or it's got the wrong spark plugs. So I view the trolls as good things. You can ignore the people who don't really know what they're talking about.
Sure.
But you can learn something. When I bought a 71 Jaguar V12 2+2 on Bring a Trailer a couple of years ago, it's a car I know nothing about. But I let all the trolls they were like piranhas eviscerating a cow that fell into the Amazon. But they would ask all these really hard questions and the seller would answer them. And
you just sat back and watched.
Yeah, I just, and I learned an enormous amount, and I ended up buying the car and ended up being very happy with it. I think that there are people that are willing to spend money for a really good car. In all of my years, nobody has ever complained about spending too much for a great car. They'll complain about spending too much and getting a crappy car.
Yeah, sure.
But if you get a really great car and you can afford it, I mean, the key is if you've got, I call it a 401 car fund, so if you've got, if whatever your budget is, whether it's 20 or 30 or 50, if you spend up to your budget and you get a great car for it, then everybody's happy. You have not overpaid. You have paid what you could afford to pay. For a good example, if you paid your 50 grand and got a car that needed a ton of work, then you'd be pissed off.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I know that. I mean, and also, I mean, a while ago, a couple of months ago, you had an experience where you had, I don't know if you put it down or you paid for the car and something went south with it and you were trying to recoup your funds. Do you recall that?
Oh boy, yeah, I recall that. I recall that really well.
It was an Alfa, I remember.
Yeah, of course it was an Alfa. And it somehow stupidly I had looked at some Alfa related thing for sale on Facebook Marketplace. And in the hierarchy today, Facebook Marketplace is the lowest of the low of the places to buy things. And Craigslist is maybe one step above. And then the very top of the tier would be the big land auctions like RM or Gooding or Bonhams, and with Bring a Trailer right below there. So this Facebook, I'm sitting at my desk. The thing pops up on Facebook Marketplace. It says 67 Alfa, stored 25 years in a barn, needs nothing, everything great, 30 grand. So what would you have done, Ed?
Sure, I know. Well, I'd be like, my eyeballs would pop open. Sure.
Yeah, and it was like right across town from me.
Oh,
it's right here, right here. So I called the guy up, and before I went to work for Tonka, I bought and sold cars and sold them overseas, and I knew the drill. What you do is you secure the car. I said, I'll send you a $500 deposit. I'll be there tomorrow morning.
Sure.
If I like the car, if it's as represented, I'll have cashier's check or collected funds the day after with a flatbed truck, and I'm taking the car. And the guy said, fine. So the next morning I'm there at 9 o'clock. Well, the car is, I thought about sending him $1,000, and I thought, well, I'll send it 500. And he said, well, I don't actually have a PayPal thing. Use my friend's PayPal thing. And it got, you have your spider sense that says this is not quite right.
Yeah.
So I get there and the car has been parked in a not good place. The nose is punched in. It was originally a white car. It was repainted cream. It's been sitting for a long time. There's corrosion in the car. It's a car that needs a total. My fantasy was, okay, I buy it for 30. I pressure wash it, get the mechanic to get it running, and put it on an online site, and I make 10 grand.
Sure.
No, I don't buy and sell cars anymore. I don't do that anymore, but it intrigued me because it was in my backyard, a 67 Duetto, I mean, just like it ticked all the boxes. But once I saw it, I said, this car needs a total. And the guy said, fine, I'll send your $500 back. Okay. So then I get home and he says, well, you took up a lot of my time, so I'm going to keep your money.
Ooh.
Now it's not, I mean, I'm better off losing 500 than if I'd bought the car and had to spend 50 grand.
Sure.
To
No,
make it into a car.
definitely. Yeah.
So it's really the principle of the thing. And then this guy starts reposting on Facebook saying that I tried to lowball him and I'm a slimer, and I'm just watching this thing. But that's the problem with buying a car sight unseen.
Yeah.
Is that the pictures that were posted looked good, and it again, it was, if it was not in my backyard, I wouldn't have jumped on it.
Yeah, but I mean, but also it's fair to say you've had good experiences buying cars sight unseen also.
Yeah, I bought a Citroen DS21 from a good friend up in Seattle who restored the car, and I never seen it, but I knew him, and I was been very happy with that car. I bought a Porsche 928 from a dealer down in the Bay Area with a good reputation, and I was happy with that car. You need to have, you're almost buying the seller as much as you're buying the car.
Got it. Yeah.
If somebody seems straightforward, has answers to the questions, and has owned the car for a while, I have nothing against dealers who are making their living buying and selling cars, but it's somebody who's owned a car for 25 years has a different relationship with a car than somebody who bought it last week and is trying to turn it this week.
Sure. Yeah. No. I can totally see that. Yeah. I mean, but then also I think that it's a different level of car if you're buying one, I would assume in the majority of cases, from somebody that has had it 20-25 years and has taken care of it, besides it being just thrown in a barn someplace, kind of rotting away. But if he's using it, I mean, there's definitely an attachment to that vehicle for him.
Yeah. And a history.
Yeah, and a history to that. Now, I don't know if many folks are aware. I mean, on all the car networks, I mean, you were really prevalent all over a lot of the car shows and the car events. But then a couple of years ago, you had a health issue. What exactly was it that kind of happened, Keith? That now it's kind of changed a little bit of the way you're looking at cars, or I should say, you are exploring new types of cars.
Well, thanks for asking that. 3 years ago, I had what's called a hemorrhagic stroke, which is when you have a bleed in your brain. And what that does is it affects some of the synapses and the way that your brain talks to your body. I came very close to dying.
Wow.
And luckily for me, the stroke did not affect my ability to speak or to read or to keep going, because strokes affect people many different ways.
Sure.
I wish I hadn't had one,
Sure.
But at the same time, my life is some ways richer and fuller because I'm more appreciative of every day that it can end any day. I'll give you an example. My daughter, who's 30, and her fiance, I just sent them to Egypt on a 2-week tour down the Nile. That cost me about $20,000. That's the same price that I paid for the 91 Alfa S4 that I bought a few weeks ago.
Sure.
And I would much rather have them had the trip than me have the car. Now I got both, so I'm
You're good.
But really investing in my kids, watching them do things while I'm still alive means more to me now than it did before. Before I had my stroke, I was totally preoccupied with being on a jet every weekend to a car show, being the
Sure.
MC, doing the TV show. And in my mind, it was going to last forever, right? Because you don't deal with mortality. You don't practice having a stroke. You don't practice having a heart attack. You don't
Sure.
practice having a car accident. So it's allowed me to really think about my legacy, think about how much I enjoy teaching my 14-year-old how to, pull the choke on the Jaguar and start it. It's just that it's also allowed me to look at cars that are automatics that I never would have looked at before. So I've had a 928 automatic, a Volvo 122S automatic, the Jaguar 2+2 automatic. I've got a Citroen that's got a semi-automatic, and those are all cars that I never would have been directly interested in, and I would have looked down my nose at because they weren't stick shift cars. Well, if I can't drive a stick shift, do I want to give up enjoying vintage cars? The answer is no. So how do you find cars that work? And you just have to come at life differently.
Yeah, I can imagine that driving that the Citroen must feel like you're on a fluffy cloud while you're riding that car.
Well, it's definitely French.
It's definitely French. There you go.
And I enjoy it because when you go down the freeway, people look at you like a spaceship has just gone by.
And it really does. And it really does. They really do look like that, mostly to people that have really never seen them around. The new S4 that you got, what year car is that? 91?
Yes, it's the first year of the new body style.
The first year of the new body style. What do you think? How do you like it so far?
It's an automatic. It's got 21,000 original miles on it.
Wow, good.
And it's perfect.
It's a brand new car.
Pardon me?
It's a brand new car.
Yeah, and it's really I've been driving it a fair amount. It's not live wire or visceral like a 60s Alfa would be, but it feels more solid, and it feels more reliable. I don't know if it is or not, but it's an extremely pleasant cruising car. It's just a different car. I mean, Alfa, I sold the Series 3 cars when I worked for the dealership, and I was there when they lost the twin pods and went to that one central kind of gauge thing, which was an economy measure and is kind of crappy compared to the old dashes, but it works okay. And it's a handsome car. It's got mini lights on it. It's a much better looking car than it should be for a chassis that was developed in 1965.
Yeah. Because it's still basically the same chassis, right?
I know. I mean, it has a fair amount of cowl shake. And at first I got all freaked out and wanted to talk about getting a chassis stiffener and stuff. And my own advice to myself, which I listened to just on this one occasion, was don't do anything for 6 months. Because the problem we all have when we get a new car is we immediately think about all the things we want to fix on it. And what you have to do is live with the car for a while and see what really matters and what really doesn't. And it turns out the cowl shake for the relaxed way that I drive this car is irrelevant. And adding another couple 100 pounds and reducing the ground clearance with the cowl stiffener and so forth, it's not worth it to me.
So what's going on? What's going on at the magazine? How are things going on over there?
We are having the best. We're having the best years, Ed, that we have ever had. More members, more advertising pages, more circulation. Our newsstand sales are up almost 50% over a year ago. It's really been. I've got the best editorial team. It's led by Jeff Sabatini, the executive editor, that I've ever had. He used to be the features editor at Car Driver. And the associate editor is Rory Jernica, who used to be a senior editor at Motor Trend. These guys really know their stuff. So the magazine continues to grow. And then part of what we do with the magazine for a halo effect is we put on classic car tours every year.
Mm-hmm.
So this year we're having our 4th annual SCM 1000, which is for cars 1974 and earlier. And we have a fabulous array of cars that travel 1,000 miles through Oregon and Washington.
Mm-hmm. And then you've got some other events coming up, like the AMG event coming up.
Yeah, the AMG event started off, a friend of mine named Philip Richter, who writes for us, is a big AMG fanatic. And he told me that I should buy an SL55, that he said they were incredibly inexpensive and unbelievable cars. It's a 480 horsepower car. So I started looking into it, and I bought one with 45,000 miles on it from a collector, a friend of David Gooding's, who knew, and it was $24,000. This is a car that had a sticker of $1.25 when it was new.
Wow.
But that's what they cost. You can buy them all day long for $24,000 to $30,000. It's got a retractable hardtop. And I just loved this car. I thought, God, this is, when I got stopped in Eastern Oregon coming back from Yellowstone, I had my son with me. And when the police officer pulled me over, he said, if you'd been going 5 miles an hour faster, you'd be on the way to jail and this car would be on a flatbed. And my son looked at me and said, does that mean I get to go to jail too?
Cool.
Yeah, but I thought this car is so great. And I started doing some research about AMGs. And there's never been an AMG only touring event in the world. So AMG is a sponsor. So is Mercedes. The Classic Center is sending up some cars. Mike Kunz, head of the Classic Center, will be there. We'll have seminars every night. So we'll have 1,000 miles of AMG touring in Central Oregon in June. And again, whether we'll do it again or not, I don't know, but I think it'll be just so great to look in the parking lot and see all these unbelievable high performance Mercedes.
And there's also a class or an Alfa rally going on up there in your area as well. You know about that?
Yeah, I do. We're a sponsor of that. That's the Northwest Classic Rally, and it used to be the Monty Shelton Rally.
Okay.
Monty Shelton Northwest Classic. It's been going on for at least 25 years. That's a time, speed, distance rally.
Oh.
And it's one of the oldest TSDs, if not the oldest, continuing operating rallies in the country. And if you like TSD, it's a great, great event to go on. And it's not just Alphas, it's just older vintage cars.
It's kind of, being down here in Southern California, I mean, we have a huge car culture, and every weekend you can find, almost every day you can find a car event around here. But I don't seem to get a lot of Alfa love around here. We've got the Alfa Romero Club, I believe, of San Diego is pretty active.
But they're doing the national convention there this year.
Yeah, they're doing it, the national convention down there. I had a guest on the podcast a couple of months ago that was kind of one of the guys kind of spearheading it. But it seems like they're going to be down in San Diego, then they're going to go up to Willow Springs, then they're going to go somewhere, so they're going to be kind of like all over for that weekend. But yeah, it just kind of seems like there isn't, a big classic Alfa following in my area. I mean, I can find people that have the new modern Alphas, but that's a whole nother type of enthusiast. And
sure. Now, is the club down there the AROSC? Is that it?
Yeah, I believe. I don't know are you familiar with Stuart down here at Sandelman? I believe is his last name, down here at APC at Alpha Performance Center.
I know. I haven't seen Stuart in a long time, but I know Stuart.
Yeah, Stuart. His dad had it. Now he's my Alpha guy. He's the guy I go to take my car. I was there just last week, and he's like, I've got 100 cars in that we're working on right now.
That's
So
good for him.
yeah,
I think that what's happened is that because Randy Nonenberg is the founder of Bring a Trailer, and he really likes Alfas, and when and he has promoted good Alfas on his site, and we've seen. I mean, I saw a GTV sell for over $100,000. So I think that seeing good ones bring big money has encouraged people to go spend money on their cars.
yeah. No, I think so too. Even Santos I bought my car from Santos up in Northridge or in the LA area, a couple of years ago. Good quality cars are coming out of there, that he's been working on and that he has. And it's kind of funny. I mean, I've even seen some Montreals bouncing around that you just, you don't really see that much anymore.
Well, they figured out, with Wes Ingram out there, they figured out how to make the speaker pumps work right.
Yeah, I'm scared that, I've got Speaker in here, so I'm scared to death when that thing decides to die on me.
That was a very complicated time for Alfa because they didn't have the resources to meet smog and safety very well. And the speaker, Wes can make a speaker pump work really, really well. But it's not particularly cheap to get him to build one for you.
Yeah.
But it may be that you're just going to, Ed, if you're going to keep that car, there's going to come a time where you're going to have to bite the bullet and invest the money into it to get. I mean, do you remember the days when we had Schenkel Sure Starts and all for speaker cars? There were things that we had to replace the thermostatic actuators, and just all backyard buddy stuff.
Yeah, no.
And if you want the car to deliver satisfaction to you, you're going to have to spend up to get it into the right condition. And there's no cheap ass way to do it.
Yeah, no, I know. Right now, my car is a 10-foot car. It's a little bit of a pig with lipstick on it, kind of. But for me, it does. It checks my boxes for me and for my wife, and for us to go kind of hang out and cruise around and go to dinner or go to the movies in it. So
you get to be in an Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, and
Cool.
I get waves and I get people smiling every time somebody looks at me. They smile, and it's a great experience. So I definitely enjoy that. Let me ask you, as we're coming here towards the end here, what advice would you give somebody, a young person getting into maybe buying their first toy car or their first collector car that they're not going to use every day? What kind of advice do you think you would give someone like that?
I would not start with a complicated 50s car or even a 60s car. I would first start somebody off with a 92 or 93 Miata and find out if they really liked being in a sports car. Find out, those cars have airbags. And so, part of the big problem with cars today is the dichotomy between the safety factor in an old car and a new car. For my 14-year-old son, because my first car was a Bug-Eye, I built him a Bug-Eye to have as a first car. But once he got in that car, even at 14, I looked at how small it was and how big the trucks were. And there's no shoulder harnesses, there's no seat belt.
And the doors are only this wide and thick.
And I thought, I can't, maybe when he's 18 or 20, we could go on a tour together in that car, but I couldn't in good conscience put him in a car like that in today's world.
Yeah.
So I would to a newbie to the sports car world, I'd start off with something like an MR2 or a Miata or something that's safe. And then you can decide, do you like shifting the gears? Do you like the responsiveness? If you like that, then you could move on to an MGB or a car like that that's relatively simple. But you have to drive an old car as if everybody else on the road's trying to kill you.
That's good. Yeah.
Because they don't see you.
Yeah.
The worst we always used to say the worst new car is better than the best old car. They can all stop really fast.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, the part of the reason our tours are so popular is we can get 45 classic cars kind of running on these roads together. And when you're running in a herd like that, you're all in crappy cars, right?
Yeah, and you're all safe.
Yeah, like, or equally unsafe or safe.
Equally unsafe, yes.
It's like a pack of bicycles. They're safer riding in a pack than by themselves.
Right.
So my advice to a newbie would be to get a sports car that's safe and see if you like it. And then start going to, you need to go to events. What people don't do is they don't join clubs the way they should. If you think you like a Triumph, join the Triumph Club. Go to the meets, look at them. You'll find out if a Triumph is for sale in the local Triumph Club. Everybody in the club will know that car.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you a quick story. I bought a Healy BJ7 one time, and I drove it to the National Convention in Rito. And I'm standing in line to get a hot dog, and this guy comes up to me and says, "Wow, you bought Julie's car. I'm so surprised you do that after that frame damage it has."
Oh, wow.
I said, "What frame damage?" He says, "No, I'll show you." I said, "No, I don't want to see. I don't want to see." It just, I didn't do any homework. If I had, and the car, I put it on a frame straightening machine. It eventually worked out, but it was, I'd much rather find out all the bad things before I buy a car than have somebody tell me while I'm putting sauerkraut on my hot dog.
Yeah, exactly. Keith, anything, for you coming up, anywhere people will see you, any events, any more television exposure or anything like that?
At the moment, I am focusing on my rehab. I do a little bit of work every day, and I'm walking a little better, spending time with my family. I've got my 2 tours coming up. I'll be at the festival in Chattanooga. I think that's in October, but not too much. I've been sticking close to home, and just my own recovery is my top priority.
Sure, absolutely. No, good for you. Good for you. Okay, well, I'm assuming that there's a website for a sports car market. And
well, I've got a deal for your watchers here. If they go to sportscarmarket.com/events, sportscarmarket.com/events, there's about a 20% off deal on a membership to the magazine.
Perfect. Cool.
And so that's the way to find it.
Great, guys. Everybody heard that, right? Sportscarmarket/events, and get a 20% discount on the subscription to the magazine.
Right.
Perfect. Keith, thank you so much, man, for your time and for sitting down and chit-chatting with me here. I appreciate it. It was great to meet you and to learn from you as well. I've high respects for you and all that's going on in here, and I'm glad to see that you're doing much better.
Thank you.
Best to you and to the kids and everything. So again, thank you so much. And we will talk to you soon.